I'm now joined by ANC National Working Committee member, Dr. Gwen Ramokgopa. Dr. Gwen, good evening, and thank you very much for your time and joining us tonight here on In Focus. Now, of course, you went to the gallows today to honor and remember Solomon Mahlangu. The question is, we saw just the other day the statistics on unemployment in the country coming out. Young people still pretty much a large part of the population that is not enjoying the fruits of freedom. You find still today we're having a conversation, for example, around those responsible for the crime of apartheid not being held accountable. When you go to the gallows to invoke the spirit of Solomon Mahlangu, what do you hope to achieve by that, seeing that some of the things with which he fought for have still not been achieved?
Abutabo, are you asking me the question?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Good evening, and good evening to viewers and listeners. Indeed, today we went to honor the spirit of Kalushi Solomon Mahlangu, and also to expose, especially the youth, the young people who were with, to the story behind the life and also the sacrifice of Kalushi Solomon Mahlangu, and also to support the family, because that is their annual pilgrimage in a way to remember their loved ones, their loved one in particular. It is really for us to know that our freedom was not free. Whether we do have freedom or not, I think it's unquestionable. We do have freedom. Whether we have equality before the law, yes, we do have equality before the law. Do we have democracy in our country? Yes, we do have democracy. Have we made progress in increasing access to education for young people? Yes, we did. We have done so. But have we achieved everything that we need to achieve? The answer is definitely no. So a lot has been achieved, but much more needs to be done. And one of that which needs to be done is to ensure that the economy is able to absorb the young people who are graduates. We know that the youth unemployment is very high, and also unemployment amongst graduates is also unacceptably high. And this is why we need to then focus on how we can deal with the structural barriers of our economy, so that we de-racialize it even more and make it much more inclusive. Just to give you an example, being privileged to be also a chancellor of TUT, the university has established the Institute of the Future of Work to be able to look at how they can assist young people to be work ready, to be able to be absorbed in the economy. So definitely there's a need to bridge the world of study and the world of work.
Yeah. And what then do you say, especially you're looking at young people in Atteridgeville, I believe it's the area where you come from as well, and that is where Solomon Mahlangu has been buried, who want to say, we want to take these lessons. Yes, we want to understand the story of how democracy came, how our freedom came about in whatever form currently is. But we want this to translate into a tangible reality for us today. How do they get to that level?
I think we need to share with young people in particular how South Africa was during the life of Solomon Mahlangu. And indeed, I was a young girl when Solomon Mahlangu was buried in Atteridgeville. I remember very well that although we couldn't go into the streets because there was a heavy police presence and army presence, we all, especially the main streets and the streets behind, we all stood outside our yards and saluted Solomon Mahlangu as he was going to be buried, because we were alerted that there is a diversion. Ordinarily, he was supposed to be buried in Mamelodi, but because the community was waiting for him to be buried, we're going to march, we're going to protest, there was a diversion to Atteridgeville. But even in Atteridgeville, I remember us standing outside our yards and saluting him, so giving him that honor and recognition. So the things were very, very bad. The trains had white and non-white sections. The bus stops, you couldn't sit even if you are elderly. The suburbs where many black people live now, after 6 o'clock, any black person moving around would have been detained and sleeping in jail for contravention of Group Areas Act and many other such acts. It was difficult. For you to access some universities as a black child, you needed to have permission of the minister, ministerial permission. So there was job reservation. You couldn't, as a black person, even study certain courses and certain and occupy certain positions in society as a whole. So life was really hard, and the exploitation, the oppression was palpable and visible. So through the lives and the sacrifices of the likes of Solomon Mahlangu, we are now free. Yes, the economy still is in the hands of the minority, previously privileged whites, and this is now what we are dealing with.
Yeah. Let me ask a more direct question. If we, for example, look at the outcomes of the report of the Commission of Inquiry into State Capture and how those who held political power sought to gain, right, from that state power materially and economically, much to the disadvantage of the rest of the country. Now, Solomon Mahlangu was honored by the Order of Mendi for bravery in gold, for bravery and sacrifice, sacrificing his life for freedom and democracy in South Africa, of course, given to him posthumously. If you look at our current leadership, in the context of what I said from the Commission of Inquiry into Zondo Commission, do we have leaders who are prepared today to actually go and sacrifice at that level, put down their own lives for the economic liberation of the rest of South Africans?
First and foremost, I think we do have leaders that are committed. Yes, we have also, we had leaders that disappointed us, who put their fingers in the people's purse, who defrauded the state and the state's resources that belong to the people. And we are all at one to say that those that are proven to have done so should receive the harshest punishment. Because having people who have suffered, and some even paid the ultimate price, like Kalushi, Solomon Mahlangu, Telemokwerani, and many others, it is really atrocious that we can have leaders, undermining and even insulting that sacrifice. So we must be intolerant of corruption. We must be intolerant of even ineptitude. We need leaders that, when given tasks, are able to bring results in a transparent, participatory manner, because our democracy is indeed participatory. So, yes, there are those that disappoint us. As they say, to err is human, but those must be called to account. And all of us must rededicate ourselves to the lives. And that is why we commemorate these days, to sharpen our consciousness, and also to recommit to what these cadres stood for and were prepared even to die for.
Yeah.
And I think there are many dedicated leaders across the political spectrum, across the social spectrum, and both in public and private, in universities, in civil society organizations that are dedicated to the legacy of those that so sacrificed.
Speaking of the legacy and the sacrifice, is the story of Solomon Mahlangu finished? Is it finished business now? I'll tell you why I'm asking. The ANC Youth League asking for the reopening of an inquest into his murder. What is the sense of the organization around that?
Well, I must say we haven't discussed it specifically as the African National Congress. However, we understand the ANC Youth League's posture in support of the family. I have been to the prison's gallows, walking the 52 steps, the last 52 steps before hanging, that Solomon Mahlangu walked through, and many others. And I've been there with Omama Mahlangu, the mother of Solomon Mahlangu, and the family. And that's also what happened again today. There is a script on the wall that talks about Solomon, that when executed, or some of the people didn't die of the news. And we were told the story that the doctor would walk through them until there's no longer any pulse palpable. But there's also a transcript on the wall that says that justice would for those that survived the news, meaning those who didn't die, justice would be mercilessly pursued. And every time the family sees that, they believe that Solomon Mahlangu didn't die immediately after hanging, and that he was finished off. There's also a legacy that he was actually shot afterwards to just make sure that he has not survived. So the Youth League, in support of this pain of the family, has also called for an inquest. So I think let's watch the space. Let's look at how that matter would be processed and take it from there. But it is the pain of Kalushi's mom, the pain of Kalushi's brothers and family that the Youth League is taking up.
Dr. Gwen Ramokgopa, appreciate your time. Thank you very much for coming on tonight here.